Welcome, everyone, to the Integrative Nurse Coaches in Action podcast. My name is Nicole Viano. I am your host, and I'm also a board certified integrative nurse coach. And I have the pleasure of welcoming you to season number 4 of the Integrative Nurse Coaches in Action podcast. Woo! So excited. And we have an amazing guest, as we always do, but this one is super amazing too. I would love to welcome Dr. Caitlin Jarvis. She is from Tacoma, Washington. She is a holistic health coach who works with healers, helpers, and overgivers. Everyone in our audience is raising their hands right now. Yes, she's also a nurse practitioner. And so we welcome Caitlin.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here. Congratulations on season 4. That's really exciting. I'm excited to share more and see what unfolds during this conversation.
Yes, me too. Yes, we'd love to hear a little bit of background. We love the story. Of course, all nurse coaches love stories, so we'd love to know your story. So, how did you discover nursing, and what brought you into the nursing field in general?
Yeah, I think like many, I was always grew up as a bit of a helper and wanted to nurture people, help people, comfort people. That being said, I got into college and actually didn't really have a specific direction that I was being called into. I think I just thought of those pieces as part of my personality, but not so much that they would apply to my career. I just hadn't thought about that. Um, my parents actually decided to send me to a career counselor. And so I went to a career counselor and did all the different tests and da 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 da. And from there, spoke about a few different things. And nurse practitioner was one of the things that came up as kind of top for me. And I remember maybe thinking about like, oh, paramedic. But then if you had to be a paramedic, you also had to be a firefighter. And I was like, okay, I'm not interested in that. And I thought about like PA, physician assistant. But then I learned, oh, as a nurse practitioner, I could have independence, independent prescribing and practice more independently in some states. And so, anyways, that's what kind of guided me into nursing. And so from there, I ended up majoring in nursing, got my BSN. I worked as an RN for 6 years before I went back to school and got my doctorate of nursing practice, and then worked as a nurse practitioner for another, gosh, maybe 4 or 5 years before I went into coaching, what I do now.
Wow, an
Yeah.
amazing beginning.
Yeah.
And how interesting that your family said, "Hey, maybe we should do some career counseling. Like let's
Yeah.
narrow some things down and help you in that way."
Yeah, I'm really grateful for it. I mean, the truth is, they were paying for my undergraduate education, and I was 2 years in, and they were like, listen, lady, you have to like pick something. And I was just happy taking my ballet classes and taking my like whatever. But I'm really grateful looking back that they helped to guide me and like nudge me and help find what was mine. And then, I mean, nursing has felt like such a part of my identity that when I left being a nurse and being a nurse practitioner, that was a huge transformation and transition that I had to really just go through consciously, because nursing is such a part of who I am that to not be at the bedside or to not be in the clinic felt different and a little bit scary. And now I certainly see how it's a part of my coaching. I've tapped into that healer archetype for myself as well. So I feel like being a nurse is just one of the ways that that healer archetype has kind of expressed through me. But that was a big transition to go from like officially being a bedside nurse or being in the clinic as a nurse practitioner, into doing what I do now.
Mm. So tell us a couple steps back,
Yeah.
because we'd love to know how you even found nurse coaching. Like What did that look like?
Yeah. I was trying to think about that. I think I probably just saw it on social media. Like, I don't remember in particular how I came across it, actually. So I will say that I was beginning to be very unhappy in my role as a nurse practitioner. I felt, I worked somewhere where I made a little bit of money and had a lot of impact, but that was hard to pay back graduate student loans. And so then I went somewhere where I made a lot of money, but had a lot less impact, and it felt less satisfying on a soul level. And towards the end, I honestly, I often say I felt like I was dying a slow soul death. Like, I was really stressed. I was um, not at all living a healthy life. Um, and I felt like I could only help my patients in a really small way. I knew I wanted to be holistic. I knew I wanted to be integrative. I knew I wanted to help with lifestyle medicine. I knew I wanted to go deep with people because that's just who I am. So I felt that in myself. And all I could do was see people for 15-minute visits and prescribe medication and send them out the door. And it was just like not working for me. And I'm really grateful for that now on the other side of it, because especially the last place I worked was really toxic. And that catalyzed me into what I'm doing now. If it would have just been fine, I probably would just still be doing something that was like okay, and didn't love it but didn't hate it, and maybe would have done that for 20 years instead. And I'm glad I'm not there. So that kind of set the stage for me, knowing that something had to shift. And then I think I got involved with the local chapter of the AHNA. Is that what it is? The Holistic Nurses Association. And maybe went to a couple local conferences. And I think it was from there that I actually saw the Inca program. And at the same time, I had been working with my own, I'll call her an intuitive life coach. And so that also kind of opened the door to this thing called coaching that I hadn't really heard of before. And I thought, wow, this is something I could do. Um, yeah, and it started with me because I actually then mentored with my intuitive life coach to do something called medical intuitive work, which is what I do now. It's very much on the more woo-woo side of the things I do, but it's where I connect with someone's energy and just intuitively bring through information that would benefit them in these four different areas: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And so I saw myself actually wanting to leave my nurse practitioner role and begin working as a medical intuitive. But as I started doing medical intuitive sessions for people, I felt like I was giving them information and then just being like, okay, good luck, bye. And like there was no integration or follow up. And so that's, I think, as I was involved with the local AHNA, I saw the Inca classes and I was like, oh, this would be a perfect way to help people, pardon me, like integrate and implement the things that I'm giving them. Because I also started to see that so often people kind of sometimes people need guidance and education, but so often people know what they need to be doing or what they want to be doing, but they just have a hard time doing it. And that's kind of the premise of the Inca class as well, right? Is like we are helping people implement and integrate a lot of things that they already know and kind of bringing their own wisdom out of them. And so I think without even realizing it at the time, but like that was really in alignment for me. And so that's when I found the Inca course and thought, oh, this is the perfect next step. Then this will teach me to like coach, and this will teach me to help people implement and integrate these, um, yeah, what resonates with them and what they know they need to do.
Mm. Ah, I love this story. So, but yeah, the intuition, right? Which is what
Yeah.
primarily you do. That is such a huge skill. Your intuition, and then helping support others build up their intuition so that they can then implement whatever it is that they want to help them live their best life. Um, I was thinking back to, your intro, just kind of when you were trying to figure out what am I going to do? Like, and I was thinking, oh, when you did the kind of like counseling for your
Career.
professional counseling and
Yeah.
career counseling. And I was like, it was kind of like your first like little foray into coaching in a way. And then, and
Yeah.
then, going down the path and graduating nursing school with your BSN and getting nursing at the bedside experience, and then feeling like, oh, I want to do a little bit more than getting your doctorate in nursing, nurse practitioner, doing that and realizing, oh, I need, there's something missing, And then, working in these fast paced environments where, you're just wanting to give more and just not able to do that in the capacity that you wanted to do. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then
Exactly.
just, yeah,
And it's so hard, I think, to transmit healing when we're not doing the work ourselves, like something that I'll share because I have worked with a lot of nurses and other healing professionals. Um, I call it kind of, it's like the dirty secret of healthcare, kind of the dirty underbelly is like a lot of us aren't healthy ourselves, but we're trying to, of course, we're just doing our best and we're trying to do our best to take care of our patients. But a lot of the time, it puts us in a place where it's hard for us to walk our talk and take care of ourselves first. And it's hard to transmit healing from a place of like, not like anybody has to be healed. That's not, it's not like an end state, but
yeah,
to, um, yeah, it's hard to be in a place where you can't even really take care of yourself and then help other people take care of them too, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I often think of it, our capacity to care for other people really depends on the capacity that we can care for ourselves, our
Yeah.
own capacity for ourselves,
Yeah.
and our ability to then help others. Yeah.
Mhm.
Very difficult to be helping others when you are depleted yourself.
Very much. Yeah. And that's one of my biggest with the folks I work with, that's one of the things I see the most is giving people permission and encouraging people to step out of that martyr role and really step into like their own strength and power, and that it's okay to take time and energy and money and invest it in yourself and in your own well-being, and then from that place you can still show up for other people, but it's from overflow instead of from depletion. And um, yeah, it's a game changer. But it's
Yeah,
hard.
huge
It's
game
hard.
changer. Yes. Yes, and a lot of us in the healthcare space or healers, or you called us helpers and overgivers, right? I'm saying us.
Yeah.
Sorry, listeners, it may not be you. Maybe it's just
Yeah.
me. Right. Um, it's hard for us to see that sometimes too. We
Right.
just know we're not feeling our best. We're tired. We may be exhausted, but we're not really realizing that we may be overgiving.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's normalized. I mean, whether you want to talk about society or for women or in the hospital in particular with nurses, um, or just in the profession, like, yeah, it's really normalized. And I think sometimes if you even try to step into a different way of being, sometimes it can even be like where people are like, well, who do you think you are? I mean, I've never had someone specifically say this to me, but I think as a nurse practitioner, when I wanted to create more boundaries and like, oh, I don't want to chart when I'm at home and I'm off or whatever the thing was, if I would bring that up, I felt like sometimes I was met with an attitude of like, well, what do you mean? This is just what we do. There, there's not another way to do it. And it was a little bit of like, how dare you try to ask for another way or create another way because this is what we've all been doing. And so, so there's a little, yeah, there's a challenge there. But yeah, it can be hard to recognize. You're right. Sometimes you just realize I feel really crappy. And it's like, again, working as a holistic health coach and coming from the Inca world, like I really think holistically. So it's like, yes, we're thinking about the physical, but we're also thinking about the emotional, the mental, and like the spiritual or energetic. And so even just thinking about how many people, like when we work as nurses or nurse practitioners or healthcare professionals, coming into contact with so many people and so much suffering throughout the day. And then I really think when we come home, often that can still kind of be in our bodies, or it can still be in our energy. So like, what are practices that we have for releasing that, or for um, calling our own energy back? Or yeah, there's so many different ways to take it. But um, yeah, we have to realize that we feel crappy first, and then we have to decide that we want to do it differently, and then we have to do it differently.
That's right. And sometimes we need a coach to help us even discover what that differently looks like in our lives. And so
Right.
our lives are so unique, our lives are so varied. So it can't just be a one size fits all kind of thing.
Yeah, and people don't know what they don't know, right? Like I didn't know back then. So it's like, yeah, we just don't know what we don't know. And so we need someone else. It often helps to have someone like that third person perspective of just reflecting back to people what we're hearing. Oh, I'm hearing you say this. Like, oh, I've heard you say that so many times this past 2 weeks, or to be able to be, yeah, just that outside perspective, and also expand that there are other ways and things that are possible besides what's happening right now in someone's life.
Awesome. Yes. Okay, so I want to backtrack a smidgen because I know our listeners are super interested in understanding what a medical intuitive does. Like, how did you discover? Well, I am very interested in how did you discover that you had this gift, and how did you develop this gift?
Yeah. So I should say it's one part of like, as my coaching career has grown, I've added different things. So I've added energy work, I've added breath work facilitator. Of course, there's been the coaching piece, and then the medical intuitive piece has been there from the beginning. And I think so many nurses, especially, are so much more intuitive than we realize. I mean, we know when we have that hunch about a client. You can't point to a specific thing, but you have a hunch. And I don't know if you or anyone read the Malcolm Gladwell book. I think it's called Tipping Point. That spoke a little bit about intuition, and he described it as subtle things that our unconscious was picking up on. And he specifically actually talked about nurses, and that he called it, into what I would call intuition, he said, was people picking up on like the subtlest things that we didn't even consciously know we were picking up on. I think that's one way to describe it. I think another way to describe it is just being connected to the collective consciousness or spirit or your highest self, or however you really want to think about it. But anyways, those are different ways to frame intuition. And yeah, for me, it really started when I was working with my intuitive life coach. She was very, very intuitive and had given me this like really long intuitive session. And when I say that, I just mean she was sharing information with me, not from her mental knowing, but just things, impressions that she was getting, knowings or sensations. And so, yeah, she was the one that was like, you could do this. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah, and, okay, I'll try. And she mentored me. And really, the first time I tried it, we had a woman who agreed to like do it with us. And she knew that I was just trying it out for the first time. And I felt nervous, but I was just willing to give it a go. And gosh, I don't remember, for some reason now I'm actually forgetting what the specific thing was, but I had just a very specific thing come in for her intuitively. And then she confirmed that she had that going on. And it was like, oh, wow. It's like, for me, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is a thing. This is really amazing. And so, really, it was just about practicing, kind of starting to trust myself, starting to trust information that would come through, starting to learn how I receive different information. So for me, it's often like a knowing or a sensation or a feeling. Yeah, so that's how the medical intuitive piece began for me and how I just practiced and practiced. And then I started doing it. I still do it at the beginning of, if anyone's working with me privately, I'll do a medical intuitive session first. And then I use the sheet, the long intake form from the INCA course, like the
Oh,
health assessment form. I
yes,
do that.
integrative health and wellness assessment form. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then from there, I create a blueprint with someone, which is just like what we want to make sure and cover during our time together to give us a little bit of structure. And then I like to kind of flow within that structure. But, anyways, yeah, that's a little bit about how the medical intuition works for me. And I think everybody's different. And I think everybody has their own intuitive gifts. And it's something that you get to um, just connect with and then practice. And yeah, one of my favorite things is helping people kind of develop their own intuition because, again, I don't really think I'm special. I think everybody has their own gifts and their own, call it body wisdom, call it intuition, these different ways of talking about just like having a sense about something beyond what you can see with the eye, I guess.
Mhm. Yes. And I know our listeners know this, right? I know our listeners know that their intuition because
I hope
so
so.
many of us have seen something in our patients where we're like, oh my gosh, I feel this in my gut, like something's going to happen here. Maybe
Yeah,
I don't have the right words for it. I just know that something is different and something has changed. Yes, we see the details too. Of course, we
right,
definitely know the data and how that can change. But this
right.
is different. This is like seeing things that maybe are not right in front of us, potentially in the data, but this is like a knowing that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any good physician or doctor that's been around the block knows to listen to nurses'
Yeah.
intuition, right? Like,
So true.
so, yeah, like it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's reliable
It is
constantly.
reliable. It is reliable.
Yeah.
Well, and then I think sometimes our intuition and that skill, that uniqueness, that unique skill that we have can be squashed too. For
Yes.
some of the people who do not believe in intuition, maybe didn't listen to the nurse who does sense and feel these shifts.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'll go ahead and take it here, but like I do think of, anyone of any gender or sex can have access to intuition, of course. And I generally think of it as kind of, a phrase is like woman's intuition, right? So I think of it as kind of a gift of the feminine. And I might use the words feminine and masculine or yang and yin and yang, but I'll say kind of this like feminine energy that I think we all have access to. And I think so many gifts of the feminine are undervalued and um, squashed and, yeah, kind of thrown away. I mean, you could also make a parallel with the nursing profession and how sometimes that's not respected in the way that it really needs to be respected by hospitals or administrations or that kind of thing. But yeah, so I think it can be easy to undervalue it, to actually say, oh, that's not useful. It's just the data that's useful, or it's just the logic that's useful. And it's like, of course, that's useful too. But that intuition is a really special gift that is absolutely very valuable and unfortunately has sometimes been undervalued in the world, but is is really powerful.
Mm, yes, very powerful. Very
Yeah.
powerful. Yes. And learning how to access it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And how to trust it because it's really, it's a little stumbly and fumbly at the beginning, right? It's like, okay, um, I know when I was first working with it, it was kind of like I just didn't trust it. Like I thought, oh, my brain's just making that up. Because I also love science, of course. Like I'm a nurse, I have a doctorate degree. I studied, like studies and statistics and all of this, like evidence-based practices. And so, oh, I lost my train of thought there. What were we just saying?
Trying to recognize and trusting
Trusting it.
intuition and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my brain would sometimes be like, "Oh, well that's not intuition. My brain just made that up," or that's I'm just still thinking about that from yesterday. That's all that was. Or so I had to go through a period where I was like, "Well, let me just what if this was my intuition? Why don't I just try it out and see, right?" And so yeah, as people are practicing with it and practice trusting it, it's kind of fun to start with the small things and then you get bigger and bigger, right? So it's like at first, maybe it's just like with eating, right? Like intuitive eating is a thing. And I'm not an expert in that area, but just thinking about like, oh, what do I want to like drink today? Or what kind of movement does my body want today? Do I want to go for a run or do I want to do yoga, or which way do I want to walk today? Maybe I'm just going to take an intuitive walk and let myself feel as I get to each corner, like, oh, do I want to go the same way I've always gone? Or maybe I want to take a right instead of a left today and just see. And so you can kind of practice with like low stakes things and just notice, like, oh, wow, then I ran into that person that I, wouldn't have run into or whatever the thing is. And then I think you can gradually start to trust the intuition in bigger and bigger things like taking a leap from one career to another, or whether you want to take a certain client or not, or what your prices are going to be, or, those kinds of things.
So good.
Mhm.
Yeah, so good. I love that idea of starting small with low stake things. Like
Yeah.
going on an intuitive walk is pretty low stakes, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
eventually going to make it home again, and hopefully, right?
Yeah.
And then building the trust within yourself
Yeah.
of really recognizing. Yeah,
Mhm.
so good. Thank you for sharing that. That's very
Yeah.
helpful. Very helpful.
Yeah. And I think that really is one of my favorite things about the nurse coach role is I've been able to bring in science and evidence-based things and say, yeah, the American Heart Association recommends you get 150 minutes per week of moderate exercise. Like I can bring in all the evidence and science. And then for me, because I also love working with the intuitive and working with the less science based, more intuitive based pieces, I can also bring that in and I can bring in the holistic medicine and integrative medicine and intuition and all of those parts as well. And that's not something I could do as a nurse or a nurse practitioner, but it's something that I'm able to do with all my clients. And of course, then I attract the clients who want that. I attract the clients who that's what they value as well, is like both of those things. And that's really important. And there's not a lot of places you can necessarily get that. So, yeah, that's just one of my favorite things about the nurse coach role.
It's one of my favorite things too. Like we developing our skills. We're first of all building on the foundation of nursing and
Hmm.
all of those skills, and
Yeah.
then add another level of nurse coaching, and then learning those skills and practicing those skills. And then maybe there's something we're so interested in. In your case, the intuition, medical intuitiveness, and adding that as a layer, and then building something else on top of that. So we're always having a foundation of, well, I should really say our foundation of our life first, right?
Yeah.
All those
Yeah.
learnings too. And then just creating something that really speaks to us as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And I think so often, at least for myself, I like to incorporate things that have made a huge difference in my life. That's why I feel called to incorporate them. So like I I was always drawn to learning more about energy work, and I did actually learn a nursing based form of energy work called therapeutic touch. Some people might be familiar with it. And so um, that was something that I then brought in to help my coaches or to help my clients because I had benefited from it so much. And then the same thing for the breath work that I facilitate now as well. At first, it was just something that I did because I wanted to release some anxiety. I wanted to regulate my nervous system a little bit more. I also wanted to kind of connect more deeply to myself and to spirit, I'll say. And then I had such like profound healing experiences with the breath work that I was like, well, I can't not share this. Now I have to share this with my clients. So yeah, it's just such a fun way to share all the layers of the different things um, that we find as individual people impactful and healing. And I'm just forever curious about health and healing. It's my jam. I love it. I'm like into it. I'm a manifesting generator. So I'm always just like all the things. I want to learn all the things. I want to experience all the things. And so it's so great because now that's my job is to learn all the things and experience all the things and then bring the valuable things to my clients. And like, yeah, I feel so grateful that this is where I've landed.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're grateful for you for expanding our ideas and expanding our vision of what we can do with nurse coaching.
Yeah.
There is no one, again, I'm saying it again, but there's no one size fits all on nurse coaching either. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And how incredible it is to be able to make my own schedule. Like I was sharing, I've decided I take a week off every month now from client sessions. So I'm in my week off right now. I have more spaciousness, um, and just being able to design the schedule that works for me. I am 42 now and I'm trying to get pregnant actually with my husband. And so that's a whole thing. And I'm on a fertility journey. And I'm constantly so grateful that I have a schedule that, creates space um, for me to prioritize myself and take care of myself. I have a schedule where my nervous system is not overwhelmed all the time, where I'm not stressed out all the time. And, um, and that I'm doing something that feels like in such alignment and helping other people as well. But yeah, there's just so many different like perks and benefits.
Yes, of doing your own thing. And
Yeah.
so many levels, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I guess maybe that was clear, but as a nurse coach or as a holistic health coach and nurse coach, I own my own business, so I get to set my own schedule and yeah, that's so wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'd love to know what's on the horizon for you. Like what things are you up to these days or thinking ahead towards or yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, just last year, I started a membership, which has been a really fun thing to experiment with as well. It's a breathwork membership. So I call it the Breathwork Library membership. Very straightforward. Maybe I'll get more creative with my naming at some other point, but my brain is straightforward right now when it comes to naming things. So yeah, it's the Breathwork Library membership. And the idea behind it was just to be able to create an accessible place for people to access the breath work because people can work with me personally. But of course, that's a more of an investment of energy and time and money. And so I wanted a place where folks could easily just tap into the breath work whenever it suited them, wherever it suited them. And so that's been a really fun thing. And I'm excited to grow that and keep kind of stretching the outreach of that. I also just started what I guess I am calling a mastermind. It's a holistic health mastermind. And that's called the Radiant Health Collective. And that's for a small group of women. And we're really just taking this holistic health journey together because it's easier and more fun and more pleasurable when you can do it together and when you can support each other and have your struggles witnessed and your challenges witnessed and all of that. So I've just started the Radiant Health Collective, this holistic health mastermind specifically for women, and I'm excited just to see how that grows. And then what's on the horizon is I still see this opportunity for um, to just help people with the basics. Like to me, it's just back to the foundation, back to the basics of sleep and food and water and relationships and movement. And so I'm later this year, hopefully going to be releasing some like month-long programs where, again, kind of in a group setting, we'll just be able to like pick one easy thing and like nail the basics together, like eating a healthy breakfast or, like drinking enough water through the day and just like let it be easy. Because sometimes we have to really just take those baby steps and let them be enough. So I'm excited for that. And I still have a couple spots for people to work with me privately. Um, I hope to start a podcast later this year, so we'll see how that goes. Eek. And who knows? Probably something that I don't even know yet, too, but we'll see.
Right? Yeah, something you don't
Yeah,
even know yet that'll come up
yeah.
and you'll be like, that's for me. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sharing more in-person breath work is something that I feel called to right now as well. So that'll
Mhm.
probably be something. Um, yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to see where this year takes me as well, but those are my plans for now.
Wonderful. I
Yeah.
really appreciated your sharing of how you're dividing up your work, and really taking 1 week off to just take that, I'm imagining sectioning that off and just leaving that for yourself to really care for yourself, to really open up space.
Yeah.
And that feeling of having space feels so good, and yet for entrepreneurs that can be also scary because we're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get everything done and all of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
yeah.
have consistently found when I prioritize myself and my health, my business grows and my income grows. And it's not always linear, but it's what's really important to me. And then, I would also call it, we spoke about this a little bit before, but then it's the embodied transmission of health and healing that I'm bringing to my clients. It's embodied for me. It's not just an idea. I'm not showing up all frazzled and like, but then trying to help them calm down and drop in. And of course, I'm not perfect. Like sometimes I'm frazzled and stressed, and that's okay too. I'm not like a monk in a cave or anything. But yeah, to be able to have that time and space or to create that for myself has been really valuable. And again, then it helps me encourage my clients to do it. Like it's like I'm always passing things on, but um then I can be like, I'm walking my talk, and I know it's hard to create space for yourself, and it's hard to take a nap instead of doing the laundry or whatever the thing is. And I've been there and I've done it, and you can do it too. And then it's really embodied for me, and I can share it with others. Yeah,
Mhm. Yes. Yes, walking the walk. Doing the
walking the
things,
walk.
yeah, doing the things that you really are trying to help the overgivers achieve. Right?
Yeah. And again,
Yeah.
it's not about being perfect or anything like that, um, but yeah, like really having that embodied knowledge and embodied wisdom. I
Mm.
think people can feel that, and it's so much more powerful and potent than me just telling you all the things from my brain, but then not being able to like live them out myself. Um, yeah,
Absolutely. Yes. So good. So
so good.
good. So
Yeah.
good. Yes. So we have a few more moments. I love to ask one question in particular. Every podcast guest has this question. So, yes.
Mm.
So, please tell our listeners what is on your heart that you would like to tell them today.
Mm. I'm gonna get my stone that I was
Mm.
holding again.
Yes.
Try not to knock over my computer. Yeah. What is on my heart, maybe this is a little bit because of Valentine's Day, but is really self-love and loving all parts of yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and bringing mm, love, compassion, and gentleness to all those different parts of yourself and releasing the shame or the judgment to those different parts of yourself. Um, yeah. And I think when we can do that, that really helps us expand and truly help others and facilitate the healing of others. But because, of course, we're first doing it for ourselves. So, yeah, that's what's coming up for me today is just like really releasing judgment around any different parts or behaviors or thoughts or interests, and instead just like bringing loving, compassionate gentleness to those different parts and, yeah, giving all those different parts a little hug. I do work sometimes with like inner child stuff or shadow stuff. And so being able to just love all those parts is beautiful. That's what's here for me to share right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question.
And we're all receiving that right now.
I hope so. Beautiful. And yeah, I just feel my heart open and expand as you ask that. It's just like a big blast of love going out to everyone. So yeah, I hope everyone can feel that. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Good.
So how can our listeners find you, Caitlin?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram. My what is it called? My username there is at Dr. Caitlin Jarvis, DrCaitlin Jarvis. You can message me there. You can find me on Facebook. I have a lovely Facebook community called Intuitive Holistic Health and Wellness for Women. So that's a really fun Facebook group that I hope to keep growing. Uh, I have a very out of date website, to be honest. I don't do a lot with my website these days, but it's there, CaitlinJarvis.com. And people are just welcome if they want to reach out to me on social media. If you want to email me, Caitlin at CaitlinJarvis.com. And if you want to hop into my newsletter list to just receive like my musings and inspirations and shares and offerings, you can do that by grabbing a toolkit that I put together for clients actually. So this is like my little freebie that I offer people a lot of the time. And it's called Aligned Health Toolkit. And it has 3 beautiful meditations where, again, the Inca course is the first time I really learned how to help someone drop in and take someone through a meditation that wasn't something I had ever done before I did it in the Inca course. And now it's something I do regularly. So in this toolkit, there's 3 beautiful meditations for grounding down, connecting up, and letting go. It has infused energy medicine in there. And then I have a couple great PDFs about incorporating more movement into your life and also how to get better sleep without medication. And someone can grab that toolkit and get in onto my newsletter list by going to alignedhealthtoolkit.com and just enter their email address, and then we'll be newsletter buddies. And yeah, I think that's everything.
Awesome. Well, we will for sure be sharing all of these links for our listeners because you can find those in the show notes for sure. And please connect with Caitlin. I've been following Caitlin for a long time and been receiving her newsletters and so forth. It's definitely well worth the time and the effort. So please connect with Caitlin. Caitlin, I know she would like to connect with you. And
Yes.
yes, is there anything else that you want to add before we tie things up for today?
Gosh, I think just that I'm so grateful for like the Inca course and grateful for you and this podcast and this chance to like share and connect with you and connect with people. And yeah, if anyone's curious about nurse coaching, they're welcome to just like send me a little message and I'm happy to share my input. I mean, that's something that has happened already in the past. And I'm really grateful for where I am today and where my career is at today and this iteration of it. And obviously, it's something that has really served me well. So I generally like would encourage other people to do it as well. But also, yeah, they get to check in with their intuition, see where that takes them. Maybe encourage people to take an intuitive walk today if it suits you.
That's right. Get out into the nature. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Caitlin.
Like my pleasure. So much fun. Yeah, thank you.